talk to us a bit about yourself?
Yes, hello. My name is Mikael Böök. I'm a Finnish social activist and library activist. I would like to send a greeting from the Gulf of Finland and from the Baltic Sea to the shore of the Saronic Gulf.
Yes, now we are seeing the shores of the Gulf of, what's the name of this gulf?
The Gulf of Finland.
The Gulf of Finland, yes. To the Saronic Gulf. Okay, continue please.
Yes, I have made contacts with a group of like-minded ATTAC activists, the Association for the Taxation of Financial Transactions. This association exists in Europe, in the different countries, and in the whole world, in Brazil and other Latin American countries and African countries also. We want to arrange the world's public finances in a new way, abolish the tax havens and introduce a taxation on the speculative movements of capital. And so I have got in contact with ATTAC people in Greece.
That's very interesting, these contacts between extreme north and extreme south, yes, in Europe.
However, Philip, what we shall talk about today is the Italian politician Altiero Spinelli.
Altiero Spinelli?
Yes.
I have not heard very much about him. Why do you think we should talk about him and not about what is happening today?
Well, in my discussions with Wayne Hall, who is a member of ATTAC Hellas, we have been discussing about the ideas of Altiero Spinelli about the European Union. Actually, Altiero Spinelli, I think, is one of the greatest politicians of the 20th century. Indeed, I think that according to me, the greatest would be M.K. Gandhi, the Indian leader. But here in Europe, Spinelli is a great politician, and he's not very well known.
That's true.
But he made a very important contribution to the creation of the European Union. Altiero Spinelli was born 100 years ago, 1907, in Rome. In his youth, he became a young communist leader. And during the turbulent years of the 20s, when fascism took over, he was imprisoned. He spent almost half of his life in prison, from 1927 to 1943. At the end, he was deported to the prison islands of Ponza and Ventotene. Many political prisoners in Italy at that time, for instance, the communist leader Antonio Gramsci, were with him. But Gramsci died in 1937, and that is the year when Spinelli broke with communism because of Stalinism. It's Stalinism. He became a federalist and wrote a visionary manifesto about the liberated and united Europe to come. This manifesto, written in 1941, was published 1943 at Liberation. Spinelli became a federalist politician together with his wife Ursula Hirschman. He was an advisor of the Italian socialist Pietro Nenni, and at the beginning of the 70s he became a European commissioner a representative of Italy in the European Commission. He re-established his contacts with Communist Party, which was then in the Euro-communist era, the era of Berlinguer and Azcarate in Spain. And at the end of the 70s, he was elected a member of the European Parliament. Spinelli, together with other federalists, started to work for a constitution of the European Union, and he convinced others to do this constitution, and he's remembered because the building of the European Parliament in Brussels bears his name. And he drafted a constitution of Europe in 1984, which was approved by the European Parliament, but it was not approved by the governments, because Spinelli's ideas no longer fit into the era of Thatcher and Reagan, the neoliberalist era.
So, Michael, now I understand that Spinelli has been a very important politician in his time, but why should we be still concerned about him today, when so many things have changed these days?
Yes, you're right. To some extent he is, of course, belongs to the past, but in 1984 Spinelli succeeded in talking the whole European Parliament over to his federalist position. And he drafted a treaty for the establishment of the European Union, political union. It's very much connected to what is happening in these very days.
Really?
When the leaders of Europe are again trying to adopt a treaty about European Union. But for Spinelli, the important thing was political union. And the constitution that he drafted in 1984 is strictly describing the institutions of Europe. It is a short document of about 20 pages, while the document which is discussed in these days is something like 300 pages. And a constitution should be short. It's very important. It should be general, so that everybody can understand what it says, and because it is the basic law. So I think that we should actually reactualize the treaty from 1984, and I cannot understand why the leftist parties, social democrats, leftists, and also those forces which have strived for European unity since the Second World War, why they are not referring to this tradition of Spinelli.
Well, Michael, I understand that it's very important to have a simple and short text that everybody can understand. But what is the issue with the context of this text? What is the context of Spinelli's proposal which makes it so important today?
Well, you are right. The context was very different in the 1980s still, because it was still the epoch of the Cold War. And the European Union was much smaller then, as you know. We
Yes.
didn't have the euro and so forth. But
I mean, are there some things we should keep from his
yeah, I think we
proposal?
could keep most of it
Most of it,
actually,
yeah.
because as I said, it is neutral. It is a question about creating a democratic structure for a political union in Europe. But then, if you take the big issues of the context, the biggest issue, I think, and there I come back to where we started. I mean, it's the military politics, and we should be followers of Gandhi also. So I mean, today there is no reason that Europe should be tied to a military alliance which is based on nuclear weapons. Gandhi was against that because
So
we
there are
don't
common
have
things
have the Cold War now, and I think Spinelli also would have been open to this idea. But we should today have a political union which is not militaristic, and the constitution which is now being accepted, it is tying Europe to the old thinking of NATO, nuclear weapons.
I understand.
So this is a question which is not being debated these days. Nobody takes it up because it is sort of understood that this is forever. But it is not forever. And Spinelli is the first one who would have understood that the world changes. What Spinelli thought about the European Union is relevant for world political system. It's not only for Europe.
So, Mikael, I understand there is some people like Wayne have found a common things between Spinelli as a politician and Kapodistrias, who was the first governor of Greece. What can you tell us about this? How have you seen this initiative?
Yes, that is what Wayne Hall is suggesting, that we should launch a Spinelli-Kapodistrias initiative. I think it's a very nice thought, because after all, the war for Greek liberation in the 1820s, it's a very important period and event in European history, and the forming of the order that we still have with the national states and their power balance and so forth. And actually, when I have tried a little bit to study Ioannis Kapodistrias and his thoughts, I find that he was a cosmopolitan federalist and a democrat who was also fighting against the reactionary forces of his day, the Holy Alliance of Metternich and all the Kaisers. So actually, Kapodistrias is a figure. I can see there is a continuity from Kapodistrias to Spinelli, who is also this kind of cosmopolitan European
International
federalist